Coming up on Network Africa, the search for 5 people wanted in connection with corruption scandals in South Africa has been extended to India, China and Dubai. And Sierra Leone holds presidential debate ahead of March general elections. And later, a look at the contribution of Nigerian troops and police to the United Nations peace operations. Hello and welcome to the program. I am BC Adebayo. We'll begin with major stories and happenings that made headlines over the weekend.
As authorities sought to tamp down unrest in Africa's second most populous nation, Ethiopia, the Defense Minister Siraj Fagasa on Saturday says a state of emergency imposed after the Prime Minister resigned will last for 6 months. Outbreaks of violence had continued in parts of the country, and the government was banning protests along with the preparation and dissemination of publications that could incite and sow conflict. Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn announced his surprise resignation in a televised speech, the first time in modern Ethiopian history that a sitting Prime Minister had quit. He said he wanted to smooth the way for reforms. Elsewhere, South Africa's new president, Cyril Ramaphosa, is under pressure to reshuffle his cabinet. Opposition parties and civil society believe that changes in cabinet will signal Ramaphosa's seriousness about rooting out corruption and fighting state capture. President Cyril Ramaphosa was elected the 5th Democratic President of South Africa just hours after the dramatic resignation of former President Jacob Zuma. Opposition parties and many from the governing African National Congress are expecting the new president to make sweeping changes to the cabinet.
There is absolutely no doubt that there will be cosmetic change in the cabinet. And the main reason, I think, is to reinforce key messages that he is going to speak on. One is the anti-corruption. And this has been a key focus, not just of the president, but also of the party as well as the nation. There has been a damage to the image of the country in terms of corruption or perceived corruption under President Jacob Zuma.
There is speculation that Lindiwe Sisulu could become Ramaphosa's deputy. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma is also among the names being circulated as possible deputy president. Then Zimbabwe's fallen opposition Morgan Tsvangirai's body arrived back in Zimbabwe on Saturday for the first time since he passed away in South Africa. The body arrived at the Robert Gabriel Mugabe Airport in Harare at the cargo wing warehouse, where supporters and family members, including Tsvangirai's mother, widow, brothers and extended family members, anxiously waited. Thousands sang and danced in praise of their fallen leader outside the airport's cargo warehouse as family members hassled with the logistics of getting their loved one's body out of the airport. The body was then taken to the One Commander military barracks in Harare amid cheers from supporters who had gathered along the road as the convoy sped off.
South Africa's Minister of Police says a search for 5 people wanted in connection with the corruption scandal has been widened to include India, China and Dubai. Fikile Mbalula told state broadcaster that South Africa would be working with the International Crime Fighting Agency Interpol to extradite the 5, who include a member of the Gupta family, which has close links to the former President Jacob Zuma. Prior to Mr. Zuma's resignation last week, 8 suspects were arrested following a corruption probe involving a multi-million-dollar dairy farm project. Well, joining us to discuss more on this is Channels TV South Africa Bureau Chief Betty Dibia. Thanks for joining us, Betty. Now, what can you tell us about the 5 people who the police are looking for?
From the police minister, Fikile Mbalula, we understand that these 5 people, 2 of them are of Indian descent and 1 is Chinese. We also understand that probably the former president's son is among those who are being sought. And this is in connection with a dairy farm project in Free State. That's another province about 4 hours from Johannesburg, where the NPA, that's the National Prosecuting Authority's Asset Forfeiture Unit, discovered that it was a tool for siphoning money, from government. The picture that we have is that the project, which was managed by Gupta Link Company, a Gupta Link company, had about 9,000 rand in its bank account before 34 million rand was injected into their bank account. The project is supposed to benefit poor farm workers in the Free State, a farm project, a dairy farm project. So now the traces are that the money which grew much more than that in assets as well, was paid into different accounts. One of them is Atul Gupta's, and part of the Bloemfontein High Court orders is that the assets amounting to about 220 million rand, including 10 million rand paid into Atul Gupta's account, be frozen. Is of course he has brought a court order, filed